Hello, virtual friends. Welcome back to Social Studies. I'm so glad you guys are here and keeping up with everything. That makes me so happy. For those of my sweet friends who are still missing some things, you got to get those done. Even though progress reports were due and done, you still have time to get that done and just get a grade in there. So please make sure that you guys are getting those assignments done for me and staying up to date so no one gets behind again, okay? So today we are starting week 4, which is tension in the colonies. And I'm going to go ahead and read you our we will and I will objectives for today. So we will outline the timeline of the French and Indian War and the events that followed. Oh no, my thing didn't save. Oh no. Sorry, my note of my other my other we will did not save. Wow, that stinks. That's technology for you though, you guys. So our other we will one was to be able to define debate expectations. And then our I will is to demonstrate my knowledge over debate expectations by recalling info during four corners. Now, it's going to be a little bit different. The assignment is going to be a little bit different for you guys because this is what it is for the face-to-face kiddos. They're going to play four corners to show me their understanding of our debate expectations. I'm going to make that assignment a little bit different for you. That is to come and it'll be listed in your teams. But yes, so we are going to start talking about the French and Indian War and all of the events that followed it. And we are going to start talking about our debate expectations because we are going to start doing debates here in class. And I want to make sure that you guys there at home also know what I expect of you, because if I can figure out, which hopefully I can, hopefully I already have figured out a way for you guys to be able to participate in a debate of your own through your virtual friends, or you can watch the video of your face-to-face friends and you can comment on it and all that good stuff. I will get that figured out for you guys, so no worries. Further instructions will come. But yeah, so I know that some of you are super, super shy. I'm not going to push the debates on you very hard, at least for now. By the end of the year, though, I expect my entire 5th grade class to be able to hold a debate on their own. So with that being said, we are going to start slow. And I promise if you are shy, don't worry, don't stress, don't get anxious. I used to be the same way. I used to hate talking in front of my friends. It was just weird. I totally get it. Obviously now I don't have that problem, but because someone helped me work with it, I got out of that. So that's what I want to do for you guys, is help you get out of your shyness and be able to talk in front of your friends. So we are going to start off by reading through our week 4 Social Studies Weekly's newspaper. I know some of you have not been able to find what you need to find, and that's all right, but you need to follow along with me while I am reading to you on the video. So you can at least look at the video and listen and follow along at the same time. So I should not be getting excuse emails on why you didn't do something because you could not find the newspaper. Okay, my advice to you, however, is to maybe get a pencil and paper and write some notes as I'm talking, or write down the timestamps of where I was talking about was. So if I start talking about the cause of what the French and Indian War was, you might want to write the time so you can go back to the video and look at it then. Okay, you can always refer back to the video. It's never going to disappear. So there is no excuse for that. Even though it's a little modified from what you're used to, you're still good to go. Okay, so with that being said, I am going to get ready to share my screen with you guys so that we can get started. All right. Okay. All right, here we go. Goodness gracious. Okay, so this is what our week 4 Social Studies Weekly looks like. It's going to just be about the tension in the colonies. We are going to start off with this first page about the war in the New World. So we recently last week talked about the 13 colonies And obviously, you know, nothing can ever last perfectly for long. So obviously some fighting started to happen. So by the 1750s, Great Britain and France were claiming more and more land in the New World. The two countries were bound to clash sooner or later. So in 1754, these two powerful countries went to battle over control of an important piece of North American land, which is the Ohio River Valley. Now, I love how this page is because it breaks it down for you in the best way possible, and I think that's great. So the reason that I have brought upon you guys the debate expectations and why I'm sticking it in here right now is because in debates there are two sides to every story. So I want you guys to be able to read through this with me and understand both sides of this specific story. So let's keep going. So I'm in this first box over here to the left, explaining why we fought. So the French and Indian War was between Great Britain and France. So please do not let the title confuse you. It is not between the French and the Indians. It is between Great Britain and France. Now, Great Britain needed the land of the Ohio River Valley. Okay, so Great Britain and France, they were fighting over Ohio River Valley. Okay, keep that in your brain bank. Great Britain needed the land because there were many settlers in the colonies who wanted to farm the rich soil there. They had come to the New World for just that reason. If the French wanted the land too, then they'd have a fight on their hands, okay? Which is what happened. So France was trapping animals and trading furs for many years in Canada, and they had the right to trap beaver in the Ohio River Valley. They knew that they could win this war against the British. Apparently, no one beats the French at trapping or at war. So on this first page, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but it has, let me move this over so I can get to here. There we go. Okay, so I don't know if you've noticed, but the wording specifically in here is saying we needed and we had. So it's in the form of a debate. So this is perfect timing for your debate. You're going to hear both sides of what happened with England and France. Now, let's keep moving down on the left side. So the key battle points. So Britain says that thousands of British soldiers fought side by side with the colonists at first. Things did not look good for our side at all. We lost many battles, but soon everything began going our way. We decided the best way to win the war would be to take control of Canada. In 1759, our troops captured the Canadian city of Quebec. We climbed 300-foot tall cliffs to overcome our foes. We continued to win battle after battle, ending with the capture of Montreal. We agreed to sign a peace treaty. Okay, so that's their key points. Now, France, it was a good thing for us that we were on friendly terms with the American Indians. Because of that, many of the Indians fought on our side. It was easy to surprise the British. They were so easy to spot in their bright red coats. We won several major battles early in the war, but everything changed in 1759. In Quebec, the British defeated us and took over the city. By 1760, it was clear we had lost Canada. The war ended in 1763 when both sides agreed to sign the Treaty of Paris. So it looked like France was doing really good in the beginning. And then Great Britain came in. Now, here is where your title, shall we say, of this war is the French and Indian War. So it can be confusing because you might think, okay, so it's between the French and the Indians. No, the French and the Indians were working together against Britain. Okay, so that should help you a little bit with recognizing that the French had the Indians as their ally instead of their enemy. Now, the enemy was Great Britain in their eyes. So let's go to the right side where it says advantages and disadvantages. So Great Britain, they say, we had many more troops than the French. Each of our colonies had its own militia or volunteer army. Each colony grew its own food, so our soldiers would not go hungry. One problem was that each of our colonies had its own government. Sometimes that caused arguments over small things that weren't all that important. France says, Because we had many settlements near the Ohio River Valley, we knew they would send help quickly if we needed help. We needed it. They were easy to defend because they were all close together. The settlements were all under the control of one government, so they made decisions quickly. However, we had to have food shipped from France, and we sometimes did not have enough for our troops. So Great Britain had plenty of food. They had plenty of food, but their governments could not agree. Now, France knew that they would be able to have backup, but they didn't have plenty of food. So after the war, on the bottom right, after the war, Great Britain says, the treaty gave us control of Canada. We also got the land between the Mississippi River and the Appalachian Mountains, the Ohio River Valley. Unfortunately, the war cost a lot of money since we spent most of the money on protecting the colonies. We had no choice but to require Americans to pay the debt. We had to raise their taxes, and they weren't happy about it. The French say, we lost control of almost all the land we once claimed in North America. One good thing about the war was that we shared our battle techniques with the American Indians. Later, when the American colonists were fighting for their freedom for Great Britain, they used some of our ideas to help them beat the Redcoats. That was almost like a victory for us. So basically, in the French and Indian War, both Britain and France won in the Ohio River Valley. Now, the thing is that Great Britain wasn't doing too hot at the beginning of the war. France was doing really good, but then the tables turned and Great Britain was doing really good. And then they both just kind of agreed that they needed to sign a treaty. Now, with the advantages and disadvantages, during the war, Britain had plenty of food to feed, so nobody starved, but their government couldn't agree on anything. Now, the French, though, they didn't have very much food, and they had allies that could back them up. So after the war, when they signed the Treaty of Paris, when they agreed, Britain pretty much gained all of Canada, and France lost all of what they had. Now, the war cost so much money for Great Britain that they had to start taxing the American people in the 13 colonies, which did not make them happy. So with that being said, the French, they taught the American Indians all their battle techniques. And so when the Americans were going to fight Great Britain in their war, which we will get to, they used some of the French's techniques. So they felt very proud of that. So we are going to kind of scroll down. Whoop, whoop. Oh, my lordy Lou. They look mad. So this pages 2 and 3, it's talking mostly about what happened after the French and Indian War. So this is the well, Miss Miller would get really mad at me, but these are the cause and effects of what happened after the French and Indian War. So the French and Indian War happened, that's the cause, and then Great Britain started taxing the Americans, that's the cause, and the effect comes after all these taxations and how it affected the Americans. So, see, I got it, Miss Miller. All right, so making a mental note here. Okay, so let's get started. The Proclamation of 1763. This is one of the taxation acts that Great Britain put upon the American colonies, the 13 colonies. So the Proclamation of 1763. After the French and Indian War, many British colonists settled land west of the Appalachian Mountains. The American Indians on these lands were not happy. They did not want European settlers taking the land and hunting the animals. American Indians attacked many colonist forts and houses. By 1763, almost 2,000 settlers had been killed. Great Britain knew it had to do something to protect the people and stop the fighting. The Proclamation of 1763 was its answers. According to this law, American Indians had a right to all the land west of the Appalachian Mountains. Settlers were not allowed to move there anymore. The law made many of the colonists really mad. Some of them ignored it and moved west anyway. More and more settlers began to talk to each other about not liking Britain's control. This was the first time a British law I was about to have a New Jersey accent, wasn't I? Whatever that was. I said law. Anyways, this was the first time a British law made the colonists angry, but it would not be the last. So if we move down to the Quartering Act. Now, the Quartering Act, This was when, after the war, British was still afraid that the colonists would attack. So thousands of British soldiers stayed in the colonies to offer protection. So these soldiers, however, needed housing, feeding, and supplies, and that cost a lot of money. So Great Britain wanted the colonists to support the soldiers. So Parliament, which is a branch of the British government, passed a new law called the Quartering Act. The law said that the colonists had to provide soldiers with places to live or quarters. The colonists had to supply the soldiers with food, transportation, and supplies like candles and fuel lamps. So once again, the colonists got mad about British law. They did not believe that they should have to support the British troops. My chair sunk down on me. Okay. So they didn't feel that they should have to support the British troops. Now, they thought that the British soldiers were very rude and loud, and they were also angry that the soldiers took part-time jobs away from the colonists that actually lived there. So back then, the American colonists did not have the right to elect representatives to Parliament. So keep that in mind. So they couldn't do anything about it. They didn't have any right or way to be able to get somebody into Parliament. So the colonists thought it was unfair. They thought it was very unfair that they had no representation as well. So they were getting mistreated and they had no representation. So now we have the Stamp Act. So the Stamp Act is where most American colonists had come to North America. They searched for wealth and freedom. However, it seemed that neither would be possible because Great Britain continued to have control. Now, the British kept passing laws that the colonists thought were unfair. British passed the Stamp Act to help pay off its debt. So because they went into that war, it cost a lot of money. They went into debt and they pushed it onto the Americans to fix it since they were protecting that land. So the British did the Stamp Act to help pay off the debt. So colonists would have to pay a tax on all printed papers. Every piece of paper the colonists used had to be marked with a large stamp to prove someone had paid taxes for that paper. Legal papers, newspapers, magazines, and even playing cards were all taxed. So the colonists were furious and refused to buy the stamps. Some of them protested or spoke out against the law while standing in the streets in town square. A few colonists were so mad they even attacked the men who collected the stamp tax money from Britain. In October of 1765, 9 colonies held a special meeting called the Stamp Act Congress. They wanted Parliament to know they didn't think it was fair for the colonists to pay taxes without having representatives to vote. The King of England and Parliament were surprised at how angry the colonists were. They repealed or canceled the Stamp Act in 1766. However, Great Britain let the colonists know it was still Parliament's right to make colonists pay taxes. Now we're getting to the good stuff. So we are brewing our trouble up in Boston. So in about 1770, colonists were still upset about the Quartering Act. Great Britain continued to tax colonist families, and it was just super unfair. The colonists believed the British were there to help collect taxes and keep peace, not to protect them from American Indians. Soldiers continued to live in colonial town and cities, and they still did not get along with the colonists. In Boston, Massachusetts, the colonists often made fun of the soldiers. They laughed at the soldiers. Redcoats called them lobster backs. The British soldiers didn't always keep their tempers. They often went out of their way to hassle citizens they didn't like. So on March 5th, 1770, the violence between the soldiers and the colonists got out of hand. That night, a group of Boston colonists began yelling at a British soldier guarding the custom house, which was a tax collection building. Soon people were throwing trash, rocks, snowballs, and ice at Captain Thomas Preston and 7 other soldiers who had come to help him. No one is really sure what happened next. Perhaps the soldiers didn't hear a command correctly, or maybe were tired of having things thrown at them. The soldiers fired their muskets into the crowd. While the smoke from their guns was still in the air, 5 colonists lay dead. 6 more were badly hurt. The colonists called this awful event the Boston Massacre. A massacre is the murder of people who cannot defend themselves. The soldiers were put on trial for their actions. No lawyer wanted to represent them. John Adams, a local lawyer, finally agreed to take the case. Only 2 of the men were punished. Some of the people of Boston were very upset because they thought the soldiers did not get what they deserved. John Adams and Paul Revere made sure that news of the massacre spread throughout all 13 colonies. Colonists were more determined than ever to show Great Britain how angry they were. Unfortunately, Great Britain became even more determined to show how much control it had over the colonies. Trouble and war was in store for both sides. So we're going to stop there for now because it's a lot to unpack, and that is typically how it's like my camera's like moving. That's so weird. Okay, so that's a lot to unpack, okay? And I know that it's a lot. I know, babies, I know. Trust me, I know. I wish you guys were here so that I could help make it even easier for you guys, but this is how we gotta be sometimes, I know. But with that being said, I hope that you guys were following along and you were paying attention, because I have been noticing that either some of you aren't even watching the video and you are taking 1 second to do the forms that I have for you, or some of you are not watching the videos all the way through. I know that they're a little lengthy, guys, but I promise listening and reading through this, it helps. It helps a little bit, even though it would help a lot more if you guys were here, but I respect it. I respect it. With that being said, I miss you guys. I hope that you guys can get in contact soon. I hope you guys are doing okay. Also, please, again, get your virtual work done. Don't get behind. It's not fun. It's a lot if you're behind, okay? Stay ahead of the game. Stay ahead. All right. So if you guys have any questions about the French and Indian War and what happened there, please go ahead and send me an email. I will be happy to help clarify anything. And hopefully in the next video, you guys will kind of see a little bit more about what we are doing for debate expectations and stuff like that. But of course, it's going to take a whole nother video for me to explain the debate expectations for you guys. So don't worry. You will get to the debate expectations. Just know that that's coming up soon. Also, I want to let you guys, I know I'm just remembering like everything like little by little. But also you guys, this week might look a little different. Just because now that we have gotten through our first week of back face-to-face class, this is when social studies gets brought down a little bit to not every day, but every Monday and Friday. Okay, so I just want to remind you that really quickly, that more than likely social studies will only really be actually scheduled Monday and Fridays. So you guys are more than likely going to have something else for me on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays that might look very similar to what the kids that are here face-to-face doing, because on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, I am helping you guys learn some of the subjects that and their aspects to them that are not quite sticking. So for instance, if you have something in math or reading or science that is just not quite sticking and we need a little bit more time on it, those days are going to be dedicated for things like that. So don't worry, I'm here for you guys. We will get through it. There's still a lot of small little details that need to be worked out. So as soon as I know everything about how the rest of the week is going to look, I will let you guys know. Don't worry. I'll do a video. I'll talk about it, all that good stuff. Hopefully I won't remember random things and keep you too long in the video. But yeah, like I said, email me if you have any questions or want any clarifications. I hope that this video kind of helps you just a little bit on what we're doing. And then hopefully in the next video, I can talk more about what the weeks are going to look like for you guys virtually, because we want it to keep it the same as possible with the face-to-face kiddos. And we will get more into the debate expectations in another video, just because this one took so long. I really want you guys to be able to be comfortable when you guys do ever finally get to come back. with our debate expectations. It'll just more than likely revolve around a lot of being respectful and how to properly speak when we get there. But we're starting very, very small, so don't worry, you guys. We're just talking about a little bits of things. So I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will see you soon.